Have you always considered yourself a disruptor? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Creekside Podcast. Me and Noah are joined by Abe Wolke, not woke, of Valet Humidity. What on earth is Valet Humidity? I've never heard of this thing.
Well, it's a new humidity control brand that we've been building out for the past year and a half. I think I first reached out to you about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'll be ready in 3 months.
Yeah. And here we are, Abe.
And here we are, a year and a half later.
Yeah, I lied. I have heard about it, but I am aware many people haven't. And yeah, you reached out on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And what was funny about that is there's so many, like, obviously with people that come out with new products, brands, there's a lot of like cold emailing, cold messaging. And so you sent me that message on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm starting a humidity pack company. And I was like, here we go. Here we go. I already know what it's going to look like, and I'm good with Boveda. Like, here we go. And then I told you something along those lines, like, not really interested.
I think you were like, I've been working with Boveda for a long time, buddy. Like, yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah. And like,
I
like the quality of the product. I like the aesthetic of the product. All these things that, I don't know, get weighed. And then you just like sent me a rendering of it, an image of it. And I was like, when can you talk?
Yeah,
and so then the rest is history. Now we've been using it. Noah, you took some home.
I did. I've been using them in my main smoking Tupperdore, the 65s. And so far, so good.
Yeah, it's rare that somebody comes into I would say a line of cigar accessories that is dominated by a brand. And on many levels is dominated by it, beyond just the product. And yeah, as soon as I like held the pack, as soon as we chatted, got to use it, I was like, this just simply is exciting. I love the visual of it. We'll put up some graphics so that you guys can see it as well. But I think it's just a really cool product. I think you've done a great job, and we're not just going to talk about your humidity packs tonight. We can talk about it a lot, but we're not just going to talk about humidity.
Sounds good.
But I want to know about a lot of things. But just to kick it off, that's kind of how we met. And yeah, I can't believe it's been a year. Yeah, it was right around our grand opening.
Yeah. Well, I remember. So I live in Los Angeles, born and raised in Cincinnati. Was back and forth like all the time because I had a co-founder in a software company who lived here. Okay. My family's all here, so I'm back and forth on like a monthly basis. And I just happened to be in town for the grand opening. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I just showed up. I was like, I think I just showed up and I was like, hey, I'm the guy who said hi, said what's up on LinkedIn. Yeah. like 2 months ago. And the other kicker was you're like, oh, also I can put your logo on the pack. And I was like, yeah, lock it in. Yeah. Just start making them. Yeah. Because that speaks my language. Yeah.
Well, anyway, Abe, thanks for coming. Thanks for flying in from LA just to be on the podcast.
Of course.
I appreciate it. I want to talk a lot today about your intro into cigars and really all of our like beginnings in cigars and what that looked like. And then why and how something like this, like software guy living in LA where cigars are ridiculously expensive. And you're building digital products all the time. Like why something physical. So let's start it there because that kind of interests me the most. And then I want to kind of go around and talk about like early cigar smoking, like how Noah got into it, how you got into it, Abe. And we'll take it from there.
Sounds good. Well, have you seen the Tucker Carlson like interview with Putin where he asks him a question and then he talks like 90 minutes about the history of Russia?
No.
I feel like when people ask me like how you got to where you are, like that's what I do. So I'm going to try not to do that here.
We'll just cut you off politely.
Yeah, do that. So, I mean, I'm from Cincinnati. I only got into technology in like 2018. I actually worked in manufacturing at a solar company here in Cincinnati during college. And I studied product design, so physical products. Yep. So this is actually like right up my alley.
Did you go to DAP?
I did go to DAP.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
So I did not graduate. I have to throw that out there. My dad will be upset.
He doesn't
want me misrepresenting. But yeah, so then I started a protein bar company, moved out to Los Angeles because our co-packer was in Los Angeles. And then my co-founder in that company moved on for good reason. It wasn't really catching on like we thought it would. And he just was like not as stubborn as I was. So he started a tech company with another friend. And then they basically hired me to work on that company. And it was hardware. So we were building computers. And they were like, hey, can you do what you were doing for Hempleet, basically, but for computers? And so that was how I got into tech. But my whole background was physical products, manufacturing, designing products. And then that company didn't work out. COVID kind of destroyed the business. It shut down. I spent a couple years like soul searching, figuring out what I was going to do next. And I was like, well, now that I've been in tech and I have this network in tech, I should probably build tech. And so I tried to build software.
Nice.
Yeah. And so, it's been a journey. We built a product. It had a ton of potential. It didn't really pan out. We sold off those assets. We're working on something really crazy right now, but it's just like been a grind.
Yeah.
And I was like smoking a cigar on a Tuesday at like 11 a.m. trying to figure out what to do with this company. And I opened up my humidor and I saw the Bovetta pack. I was like, God, that's ugly. And I was like, somebody should make one of these that looks cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe I should make this.
Right on.
And that was kind of how it started. So, yeah.
I love that aesthetics drove it for you. That's where we are kindred spirits on that.
That was actually why I reached out, because I saw the website.
Really?
And I was like, oh, this guy gets it. Like,
and the website was pretty rough, but you could see
the
potential,
logo,
the brand,
the black and the
Shout
orange,
out to Durham
like
Studio.
the good colors. And I was just like, okay, I already see where this is going.
Yeah.
Like, I think once he sees what we're doing, there will be some synergies.
Yeah.
So,
and there are.
Yeah.
No, I almost forgot to introduce what we're smoking tonight. So why don't you do that?
This is the United Cigars Gold Star, and it's a fantastic cigar. I really like this cigar. So it's going to be United's more affordable offering, and it sits on the shelf at anywhere between $10 and I think $13, depending on the size that you get. I've really been enjoying the cigar. It's like the third one that I've smoked.
It's super good. And the really cool story to this is we're one of 10 retailers in the country that have this cigar. The rest of the world will get it after PCA, so like end of April. But we've built a really good relationship with United. Abe has become a top seller at Creekside, which is kind of crazy. Like a cigar that averages around $30 a cigar being a high volume, like people come in here for it of all walks of life, not just the guys that like want to look like ballers, like people just come in and smoke that. So we've had a lot of fun pushing United and introducing people to smoke a great cigar. You call it a value cigar.
Listen, I would say
you might be the only person that call the Abe a value cigar, but explain yourself.
An Abe, in my opinion, is the ultimate value cigar. When you grab an Abe, depending on the size, you're going to pay $29 to $40 for it, which is a very high price point for a cigar. But when you cut and light an Abe, you get every single penny that you paid for in that experience, right? And so the value is delivered. The price point is high, but the experience is also very high level.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not a budget cigar, but it's very much a value cigar. The ultimate value, in my opinion. There's a lot of cigars that are like that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying now. When you first said it to me, like, this is the best value cigar in humor, I'm like, I'm thinking budget when I hear value, or like a low price point, but it smokes above its weight class. This is like, it's still a high premium, but it matches that, which is arguably harder to do, because when you buy something of that high dollar amount, you're like judging that cigar at a different level.
Absolutely. I think once you go over, for me, it's about $25, right? That's that range of cigar that you consider like, a limited premium cigar from a lot of different companies is going to come out around the $20, $25 range. And I think once you go above that, then it gets judged on a different rubric altogether. Totally. I mean, it's not the same paying $30 to $40 for a cigar as it is paying, $9 to $14 or even in that $20 range for a cigar. So I think it should be held to a higher standard, and it's going to deliver a higher experience, or it's not. And unfortunately, there's a lot of cigars that cost a lot of money and they don't live up to the price point. So when I'm going to judge it, I got a lot of cigars that I love that are, let's say, $11 to $14. When I grab an Abe, it's easily 4 times better than one of those cigars, right? And so, to be honest, because of what United is, in my experience with Abe, Byron, Alfonso, they're basically the entire line, everything I've had from them, minus Red Anchor, that one wasn't for me. Not
Same.
a bad cigar, just not for me.
Red Anchor and Bandolero, not for me.
I did not have very high hopes for a brand like United trying to shoot for this section of the market. I was like, okay, so it's probably going to be an afterthought is almost what it felt like we just need something to fill that spot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of brands that have, a value addition. Some are good, some are not. This one, it's a fantastic cigar. Like I said, I've really been enjoying it.
It is very good.
Made at the Ventura factory, where a lot of Caldwell, Room 101, at least used to be made. It probably still to an extent is an Adventura brand, one we haven't brought in yet, but I'm excited about that potential. Good factory, good tobacco, and yeah, it's a great cigar. And you can get them on our website right now, actually. One of the only places in the world, people. So make it happen if you are interested in smoking Gold Star. That sounded too salesy for me and for this podcast. So
I do
if
think
it's
it's
made it
cool
in the final cut, just so you know, you can get on the website, but you don't have to.
But you should.
But you should if you want to. Do you remember your first cigar?
Yeah, I do, actually. It wasn't that long ago.
How long have you been smoking cigars?
I think 2019.
Okay.
So when I was working on this hardware startup, I think it was like New Year's Eve of, like 2019 or something like that. And one of my good friends, who's like the brother of the CEO of this company, whatever, and he'd always be in town, and he was in town for New Year's, and, it was like midnight, and he was like, hey, you want to walk across the street to Soho House, which is some members club in LA, and smoke a cigar. And I was like, fuck it, I've never smoked a cigar. Yeah, let's do it. Yep. And we went over, and he's like the type of guy who, like, he's just really interested in the highest quality things.
Okay.
So like, if he's gonna buy
I've got a picture of him.
If he's gonna buy a suit, he's like not flashy, but he's gonna find out like who has the best fabric, the best fits, like, if he's going to drink whiskey, it's like, okay, he wants to know about the whiskey, the distillery, like, and so cigars, same thing, right? Yeah. So we go over to Soho House, bring some cigars, and he's explaining to me, like, here's how you light a cigar, here's how you cut a cigar, like, there's this whole ritual behind it, right? And I love that, because it's like, if you know, and if you don't, it's easy to point those people out. Yeah. And which I just think is fun, because then it's like, ooh, pressure's on. Like, do I look like I know what I'm doing, or like, do I look like an imposter, right? And so, so that was
why
the
we
first
do the
time.
no mic stands.
Okay.
So that way, when you have to relight, it's the most.
It was awkward. I just did, and I was hoping. I was like, I was like trying to keep it lit.
Out.
Yeah.
Poser alert.
Embarrassing. No, honestly, the light was good. The cut I didn't do so good on, but at least I can hide that. The ash is nice. Yeah. But yeah, so I loved that, and then I just kind of got hooked, and then we moved to Miami during COVID. I moved, and my friend also ended up moving, because I don't like to be locked up in my house.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
And we had a decent amount of like parties, get-togethers, whatever, and we'd always have cigars. And he bought me like a humidor for my birthday, and then he bought a bunch of cigars, but I'd keep it at his place. And then when we moved out of Miami after the lockdowns ended, we both moved back to LA, and he's just like, keep the cigars, and these are like really, really good cigars. Like, there were people who brought cigars over as like gifts, since like one of, a few hundred, like in a ceramic jar, and like all this crazy stuff. And he, and he left it all with me, and he's like, he shows up to my house in LA, and he's like, the fuck is going on? Like, where's the, like, you don't have any humidity control, like, you're not taking good care of this collection, like, what are you doing? And he's like, buy some of those Bovetta packs. And so I went on Amazon, I bought like the 8 gram, like 65, or maybe even the cannabis SKUs, threw them in there for like 50 cigars, like an 8 gram pack. And the next time he shows up, he's like, you bought the wrong ones. And I'm like, damn, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like, I am gonna destroy this collection of like limited edition Davidoffs and like all these things. And so then I was like, okay, let me just go down the rabbit hole and like actually learn how these Bovetta things work. Yeah. And so I went to their website, I read the charts, I read the whole thing, and I finally like bought the right ones. But then, and that was before I finally looked at them and was like, these are ugly. Yeah. I was just like stressed out enough trying to figure out like which one I should use. And then when I did realize, it's probably, just a few years later, I was like, oh, I want to make a better looking version of this. I started asking other people, like, hey, do you, how do you store your cigars? And I found out that a lot of people who say they like cigars don't keep cigars because they lose them. They get moldy. They don't even know how to use a Bovetta. They don't even know what a Bovetta is.
Yeah.
And I was like, that feels awfully familiar. That's what I dealt with, right?
Yeah.
Like the pack, you look at the front and it's like 69%. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? If I don't know anything, like there's no education happening on the package. And so that was the whole idea behind Valet, was like the real
point of sale,
the real product
educating.
improvement exactly is like right on the front of this pack. It says, designed for wood and non-airtight humidors in moderate climates, right?
And which percent is that one? 72?
That's 72.
Okay.
So for each...
That's another thing. Like, and we talk about this a lot, Noah, because people come in here and they're like, they keep drying out. I keep buying the 69s, which is like kind of what you want your cigars to sit at roughly within 1 or 2 degrees or percentage points. But they have a wood humidor and it doesn't seal. And so we always talk and encourage people to go get like the homemade version of a humidor, which is what is the exact bin that you buy for it?
So the first one that I ever bought was a Rubbermaid Brilliance container, but the best ones, in my opinion, are called Sistema. You can get them on Amazon for like $13, and they hold a buttload of cigars in there. And they
hold them airtight.
They do. It's an airtight. Anything with the rubber seal, BPA-free plastic, because when your cigar's getting all messed up or something leaching into them. That's right. Let's go. But that's the easiest way, right? Because with a wood humidor, you're always going to have also the wood soaking up some of the moisture that needs to go into your cigars that's now sharing with the Bovetta or Valet pack, and it's sharing that moisture with the cigars, the wood, and everything that's in there. Plus, if it doesn't seal, you're constantly losing a little bit. And so I've started, it was Bovetta was the brand that I started using, and I'm currently using the 65% Valet packs in my main Tupperdore, and that's just the easiest way for me. So I can trust these Valets as much as I trust the Bovettas, and so far I've had no problems with it. But I took the hygrometers out of all my Tupperdores and everything. Nothing's Bluetooth to my phone that's not related to the member lockers here. That's the only humidors I watch, because I know for a fact, in my experience, I've never had any mold, any dry cigars. I can take a Cigar Medic and hit any one of my cigars. They're between 63 and 65% internal, and that's, for me, what I like my cigars to sit at. Yeah. And it's the easiest possible way to maintain a cigar collection. And then when you get enough, you start to go to, for me, it was just an Igloo cooler, right?
That's
something
what I have at the house.
Presses down nice and easy. The big white ones.
That's what I
stole that idea from online guys. And it's just super easy.
Well, it's funny because I was just in Pennsylvania a few weeks ago for Valet, actually, through you introduced me to Ryan,
buddy.
and his buddy, and I went to Pennsylvania to meet in person.
Shout out Ponist.
Yeah. Thank you. And we met in person to, work on some like distribution and different things like that. And I was talking to them about, cigars, and they're kind of quizzing me to like make sure I'm not totally full of shit, and
you got to watch out for these LA
like, what
tech
are these,
bros.
Yeah, exactly. what's the best way to store a cigar? And they ended up, educating me a bunch on like, well, actually like you want different humidity levels for different types of wrappers and different types of fillers, and like depending on, you can't have, and it goes way deeper than just like, oh, you have a wood humidor, use a 72%, there are preferences beyond that, but they were saying that if you're serious about your cigars, you would just keep them in a Tupperware. Like the humidor is aesthetics.
Yes.
But if you're actually serious about the perfect smoke, you're going to keep it in a Tupperware. And I think that that's an opportunity, because I don't see a lot of good looking Tupperware out there either,
It honestly is. And it's one of those things that's fallen into the trap of the classic nostalgia heritageness of cigar smoking, where it's like everything has to be regal. There was a time period where like everything has to be regal and nice and like ultra quality and premium looking and feeling,
which I love,
which is nice. Yeah. But like, I mean, it's kind of like how we do things here. Like we have a nice place, but like I'm not wearing a 3-piece suit. So like, do we need the things that hold our cigars to be like just look nice and be non-effective? Like I have a wooden humidor on the top of my desk, but like I'm throwing a new pack in that sucker, and it's old. It was like passed down from my dad. It has no seal. So I just like know every month I have to put new packs in it, no matter who it is. Like this thing is leaking, and in the winter I gotta keep up with it. But anyway, what I was trying to get to was there's a lot of people who, we had this debate early on in our Discord where someone was talking about like, it's ridiculous to not keep cigars in a wooden humidor because it's like almost disrespectful to cigars to put them in something like a Tupperdore.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this argument of automation to me where like automation helps with consistency, and consistency is a better experience and output for people day in and day out.
Yeah.
But it's not as sexy and it's not a human doing it. So there's like this fear of it. And that's how I feel about Tupperdores versus humidors.
Well, so you know the brand Hermes?
Yeah.
So they, I think the owner, he talked about, he was like, all their bags are handmade in workshops in France because they use the saddle stitching, which is, but he said the only reason it's still handmade is because right now humans are still better at it than machines. So he's like, it's actually about the quality at the end of the day. Like once the machine can do this type of stitch better than, a craftsman who's been taught for 10 years, they're not opposed to automating it. So
what's your thoughts on this?
I think for cigars, it's kind of the opposite way though, right? Like, or no, you're on point there. I do think that humans are better at cigars, and I don't think machines will ever be better than cigars, because even if a machine could roll a cigar as good, I'm not connected to the people who made that cigar, right? And that's one of the cool things about cigars is that somebody made this. Somebody's livelihood is this artistry that puts these cigars together. Somebody blends them. They get cared for in a lot of ways, right? But when it comes to putting them in something pretty, I think it's the silliest thing, because like I love cigars, right? And aesthetic aesthetic has its place, right? Aesthetic definitely has its place in setting a mood in a room, and you design your house, what you choose to wear that day. But I fell in love with cigars. I didn't fall in love with what cigar boxes look like. I don't really care about brands, bands, boxes, vistas, any of that stuff, right? And so the pageantry that goes along with cigars, are you into that?
That's the word I've been looking for this whole time.
Or are you into the cigar? And for
Thank
me,
you for saying that.
it's the cigar, right? When I look at cigars and I'm picking one, sure, the Gold Star band is cool, but look at the wrapper, right? Smell the cigar, feel the cigar. How does it feel in your hand? How is it made, right? And so that's really where I'm at with it. And I don't personally care that the Tupperdore is not pretty, because all of my cigars are pretty and I can see straight through it and I can see all my cigars.
Yeah, and I don't think that will ever go away for cigars for a multitude of reasons. One of the main ones being the actual rolling of the cigar is the final stage, the final set of hands in a line of 200 plus other hands of sorting the tobacco by sight, and prepping the tobacco correctly and curing and fermenting the tobacco correctly. All this stuff that like requires humans to touch it and locate it in different places, and work with like these blenders on what they want in the cigar. And so I think automating in cigars is probably never going to happen. Not to mention where they're made, the ability to even do that would be really challenging.
Well, even if, when it comes to rolling, the leaves are different, right? So you have to pick the right leaves. And I mean, if you look at like, these are the same cigar, but if we look at the wrapper, it's not the same wrapper, you know? It's close, but.
Yeah, I mean, literally it can't be the same wrapper.
Right.
Look who accidentally walked in. Dave Wick. He's never made it on the podcast. Will they see him today? Stay tuned and find out. Okay, so you were talking about educating people on the packs. I totally agree. I think that is such a value add. If you're not in a place where people can give you that education, or maybe you're not even comfortable asking, or you don't want to look stupid, or whatever the case may be that holds you back and from asking or researching further, the ability to look at it and not just be like, okay, I think I just need the 69% always, and I think the 65s are for Cubans. I like how you have them named too is cool. Like, can you walk through that? Like one's like aging, fermenting.
Actually, the fermenting, culturing. I had to come up with that one myself. So that's going to require some education. But essentially, I wanted a word. Like, there's a few things we did here. So one is they're all different color. They're color coded. So once 65%, like you don't even have to remember 65%. You can just remember the green pack. So each pack is color coded. In the future, I think I want them all to be black, but we'll figure out a way to have like a green rectangle or something on it.
I now am a 72 guy because I only want
right.
the 72.
I know, I know.
And
But
cool.
you haven't seen all the other ones because we have some good colors.
I saw the green one.
No, you haven't seen the other ones.
Oh,
you haven't seen seasoning. You haven't seen.
No, I haven't.
That one's sick, gray and gold.
Ooh.
Yeah. So.
What's seasoning?
Well, that's you throw it away. It's you use it.
Oh,
you
like
use it for 2 weeks. And 84s. But yeah, so we came up with a name for each.
The best looking one you throw away.
No, look. Obviously, the black is the best looking. But it is 72, and now that I'm learning that people are keeping their cigars, and if they're serious, they're keeping it in the Tupperware. I'm like, well, maybe standard should be 69 because that's the humidity level you're actually going for. But right now, we have basically 65 is aging. And so that's for long-term storage or like aging fine cigars. 69 is airtight, so that's for plastic humidors or airtight containers. Okay. And then the 72 is standard, and then 75 is culturing. So if you ever hear people talk about just like cheesy, like cheesy cigars or like letting them
funky.
get like funky,
I like
that's
some funky cigars.
you might want to add some funk.
We've been on a funk kick.
I'll tell you something funny. I screwed up the packaging for the 75.
Okay.
And I accidentally put, because I didn't have a designer to proof everything for me, so it was just me. I had them build the one, and then I built all the others. Okay. And so we printed 75 with seasoning on it, so we had to throw away like 25,000 packs,
so
and I made in the factory, made a few thousand of them, and then I just looked at them and I was like, whoops. So anyway, 75% is culturing, and then 84% is the seasoning, which is just for seasoning a new humidor.
I don't think I've ever thought about culturing or flunking up.
We're gonna make it a thing.
We should try it with some like cigars that we think would do better with age and some funk, like add more funk to them. If we had like a couple humidors airtight in the humidor that we put the 75s in as like, I don't know, experimental.
You just got to be careful. You can't leave it for too many months because it's like it could start to get a little too funky.
It starts molding.
My friend who got me into cigars, he likes the funky cigars. So the reason I kind of laughed when I said 75 is like culturing is we've just been arguing about it because like I'll buy like a Caldwell dropped or Lost and Found had a cigar that was like, and he described it as cheesy, and I was like, oh. And I bought it, and then I smoked it. I was like, I don't even like this cigar. So I was like, what does cheesy even mean? Because if this is cheesy, I don't like it. So we've been trying to find like some good, funky cigars. So if you have recommendations, let me know. I'll take some home tonight.
PGs.
Yeah, PG, Paul Gamarian, Soiree 2. Man. Or
We're
if you
about
can
to
get
get
a
'em
nice,
in.
well-aged Cuban Sancho Panza, that thing's got funk for days.
Okay.
The PG.
Do you have the Cubans?
Some guys do.
Yeah.
I know guys.
I know a guy.
We got a revolving door of some like guys that got deep humidors of some cool stuff.
Nice.
And I think you said this the other day. I'm the same, where I've smoked more Cuban cigars in the past 2 months than I have in my entire life combined.
Yeah, and I think
it's changed my perspective.
I
on
had
it
a view
in a
of-
positive way.
Yeah.
I had a view. I think it was, we even talked about it on one of our podcasts. My view is very askew of what I thought Cuban tobacco was and what I think it is now. It's not as monolithic as I once thought before. Like, oh, it's just light and it's got that twang. I hate that word still. There's like a very zippy flavor that comes with the Cuban profile, but that funk can be had in Dominican tobacco that's properly aged as well. I just smoked a gifted cigar the other day. It was an old Camacho. I think it called the Amendment 12.
Oh, I saw it in the
old
coffin
States.
back there.
Yeah, it was in the coffin. That thing,
That was Honduran Camacho, like
Honduran Camacho.
Aora family tobacco.
21 years old.
That's
and
sick.
it was the guy just gave it to me, right?
That is
Thank
sick.
you, Theo.
Yes,
Gold member. Good guy.
Theo's who's introduced me to a lot of Cubans. Him and Mike.
Him and Mike, yeah, those guys have definitely hipped me to some new flavors. But I think this cigar even has a little bit of what I would describe as that funk in there, because there's kind of like it's like a citrusy and then like a musty, like think fall as leaves are decaying type flavor note in the back of your thing. But this has got that kind of orange cream thing going on in front of the woody note, and that to me is very reminiscent of that funk that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
You could smell it before you light it up too. Like when I smelled this one a little bit.
Because what it translates as a smell, it's almost manure, and that sounds offensive I think, but it's not. It's an organic type of scent.
Only if you're unsophisticated.
Yeah. Yeah. Only if you don't know. Yeah. Only if you only if you have plastic humidors, you wouldn't be able to smell it like the wooden people.
Do you know like what the filler is, what the binder is on this one?
I honestly don't remember. Do you know off the top of your
I
head?
have no clue about this blend, but we can probably get it posted on screen for the viewers.
And I will pull it up here shortly and
I'm curious.
Look at it. But before we leave the PG topic of the funky, they do a really cool. So PG, Paul Gamerian Cigars, really cool brand. They still make their cigars at Davidoff. They're one of like the only non-Davidoff brands that make their cigars there. They've been making them there for decades. And when you look at their like price list of their like inventory, they date mark a lot of their boxes. And so you can buy like the PG2 Soiree you can get nothing newer than 3 years post-roll. That's like the newest thing you can buy from them because they like let everything age. But then you can be like, actually, I want the PG2 Soiree 99. And it's legitimately a 99 roll date. Or the 08. So what we did in this order that we're building that's going to come in the humidor is anytime I could, I would get one box of the current production and then whatever the oldest version of that one that they had in stock was. And so we'll put them both out. And my hope is that people will come in here and be like, I mean, this is what I want to do. I have to smoke the new one. And then what did it taste like 25 years ago?
Yeah.
And what is that difference? If it's the same blend, but I mean, you can already imagine how different a cigar like that would taste.
Yeah, and when they're treated properly throughout that post-roll aging process, right, lots of interesting things happen. And you can get very unique smokes out of it. And one of the things I like about the PG when I was looking, because I was at home looking at their website, did you know you can get 10 packs of cigars that were rolled 15 plus years ago for under $200 on PG's website? I mean,
no, this
is not a plug for them. I mean, you like them or you don't, I don't care.
That is
But
really
I ordered
sick.
a couple of 21-year-old packs for under $200 for a 10 pack. That's insane, especially for what those
Have you had any
cigars are. Not yet.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna have to load up. Do you have any of those here? Or
I'm
you're
not
just
texting. I'm pulling up the Gold Star information.
I'll need some links before I leave.
We'll hit you with some links.
Yeah.
While he pulls that up, though, I got a question. So
ahead,
you were
Neil.
talking about culturing. Is that the word that you use?
Yeah.
And that's a 75% pack. And
Right.
your intent is to put a 75% moisture pack into an airtight container with cigars? Because for me, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Well, it would depend how long you put it in there for, but not necessarily an airtight container. So people have been buying Bovetta for 20 plus years now,
Long
right?
time.
So what we did is we wanted to just make sure that we matched what they have, right? Because I think it actually, if you were to put this in an airtight container and you were to test it at room temperature, which is usually 67 to 72, like it's probably going to be 73, 74 degrees. We could have made it 72, but Bovetta's is 73, 74 degrees. So I'm like, do I want to be accurate, or do I want to give people something consistent with what they've been using for 20 years so that they don't screw up their collection?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had to start there.
Yeah,
it's like, if you're going to put the same number on it, you got to make sure it performs the same way, regardless of whether that number matches the actual performance. Right. So that was where we started. And then, so they have a 75%. And I figure it's for either a really dry environment and like a really drafty humidor. You probably don't want to put it in an airtight container.
So I was just when you're saying that the idea would be to age them with that, because I know that and I kind of have an opinion based on talking to industry insiders, reps, cigar makers, tobacco farmers, the people I've gotten to interact with, and I've been lucky enough to talk to since I've started working here, are kind of going to say that moisture and water is the enemy of your cigar, right? And you have to harness it in a way that works for your cigar. And if you use an airtight container, the disclaimer for anybody who might be listening to this is that in a Sistema or a Tupperware, a Rubbermaid Brilliance, like we talked about, if you put 65 packs in there, typically I'm holding at 67%, right? Because none of it gets out, none of it leaks, and the air is barely moving in there. So the moisture just exchanges between the cigars and the pack only. You're going to hold a couple points higher.
Yeah. And so there's also like water activity levels, right? Like you go beyond beyond humidity. There's like, what is the water activity of the cigars? And that's a big thing in food. So like when I had a protein bar company, you know, you had to always
it all
measure
comes back.
the water activity levels of the protein bars to make sure that they weren't going to grow mold. But most people aren't going to have like a, you know, multi-$1,000 water activity meter in their, you know, testing their cigars.
You had it because you knew from
yeah. So I know a little
life.
bit about that. Yeah. So it all comes together, right? It's like the manufacturing experience, you know, the water, the FDA. Like we built out a whole factory at one point in Cincinnati. And when I say we, my partner did the work. But I was still an owner of the company.
So it was we.
So it was we. I had opinions. But, you know, we had to go through getting FDA compliance and all that stuff. And like everything that we're using in these cigars or in the humidity packs is also like FDA approved ingredients, all this stuff. So it's very similar to making a food product, right? But the water activity is super important, like you were saying. So yeah, you can't really measure that if you're just at home, but you want to, I mean, if you use the right humidity levels, the water activity should be fine. And that's why you have the 65% for long-term storage. Right, so you don't want to store cigars long term at 72, you know, or in a wood humidor at 72 even. You might want to use 69 if you're in a wood humidor, or 65 if you're in a plastic humidor, and then, you know, a week before you smoke it, maybe you increase the humidity a little bit, right? So, I mean, that's
again,
like
not for me because I prefer my cigars not dry, but I don't like wet, spongy cigars. So I think that, in my opinion, a cigar that's internal is 63 to 65% relative humidity is absolutely perfect smoke. And I know that that's kind of like the Cuban rule, but I do smoke a lot of different types of tobacco, Dominican, Honduran, you know, I like Peruvian tobacco. So I seek out cigars that have that in there. And for me, 65% in an airtight container just seems to work across the board, gives me the experience that I want.
When I was in Pennsylvania and I was sitting down with these guys who are like industry veterans, they were like
just trying to break you.
They were trying to break me. No, but they I mean, they gave me so much information, and like I'm like, okay, I'm not going to remember all of this, but they're telling me, oh, you know, if you have a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, then you've got to keep it at this humidity level. If you don't have it at this humidity level, then that's why it's going to, you know, burst open when you light it, or it's not going to smoke right. So it also depends on the type of leaves that are in the cigar, the perfect humidity level. But at the end of the day, it was like, let's give people something simple, understandable. It's going to get you 80, 90% of the way there.
Yeah.
And then like you can go as deep as you want to. But there were just so many people. Like, I think that the market could be larger than what it currently is, because a lot of people who want to smoke cigars or say that they like cigars but maybe aren't fanatics, they're not buying these, or they're buying the wrong ones, and it's very intimidating. So if you can get those people kind of up to speed, then there's a lot more people who will be buying humidity packs.
It also makes me think that you could add a lot more product line in the future as you educate people, because especially if you're, you know, someone that's using multiple humidors because you're doing smaller, more airtight stuff, you could have your Maduro or your broadleaf humidor, you could have your Cuban humidor, you could have like your light Connecticut's, and then if there's education on like which packs are made for those, you could really like lock in the perfect collection.
Yeah, we've talked about this. It's a deep rabbit hole, and so we got to get something out there first, you know, and then we'll move from there. But we have a lot of ideas. Yeah.
All right, I found the info on Gold Star.
Okay.
Ecuadorian Habano 2000 wrapper. It almost looks like a Connecticut. Like this is like the lightest, creamiest looking Habano wrapper I've seen in a long time. Really beautiful. Sumatra binder, Indonesian Sumatra. And then the filler, from the DR, there's the Ligero, which is a Criollo 98, and then a Corojo 98 Ligero, and then Connecticut Broadleaf. This is not a strong cigar.
Not at all.
At least to me, it isn't.
Well, I would.
I'm getting ash all over.
This happened to me in this exact spot the last time we were doing this podcast.
I would agree that this cigar is not strong at all, but Connecticut Broadleaf is largely looked at as a tobacco that has to be strong. It's rich. It definitely is rich, and it's complex, and there's that element of complexity in this cigar for it being so medium. I mean, this is a very approachable medium-bodied cigar.
It's in the same world as
any beginner.
It's in the same, especially as a Habano. It's in the same world as like a Mil Diaz. It's like the Dominican kind of brother of MD, I think. Like that kind of profile. It's less bready and toasty and more like woody and a little bit of that like citrusy orange thing going on. So it's like a different profile, but the same kind of, I don't know, approach of a cigar.
Sure.
You don't agree? Explain.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's got that citrusy note to it. It's very orange and cream to me, like right up front. Very creamy, and I get like a buttery note on this cigar, and the woodiness is definitely there, which is a characteristic of, I think, Dominican tobacco.
Yeah.
It can be good or bad, because I'm not I've never picked up a cigar like that's going to taste like wood, and I want another one, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's not, but all cigars do kind of have a woody characteristic, and it depends on, how you balance it out with the other tobaccos that are in there. And speaking of Ecuadorian Habano, it totally makes sense because of the experience that you get from this is what you expect from Ecuadorian tobacco.
It's really good. That's all I can say. I'll be smoking a lot more of these.
A lot. And again, at the price point, this thing punches way above its weight class.
Yeah, agree.
Do you guys have like a go-to cigar that you smoke all the time? Because I'm the type of person who I always walk into a shop and I'm just like, tell me what you have here that I can't, just give me something new. I just always want to try something new.
Well, you said this when I walked in tonight, and you were like, every time I come in your humidor, it's a totally different selection.
Yeah.
I was like, that's because we're weeding out the weak slowly but surely over the past year, bringing in brands that we really think are awesome. And now it's been like people come to Creekside because they know I don't know what that sound is.
Somebody's getting down.
Yeah. They come to Creekside because they know our selection. They're going to see stuff that like they've never seen before, especially in brick and mortars, and then a lot of times even online. They just haven't seen it.
Like that boy band one
Like
that
boy
I
band.
bought from you a few weeks ago.
Did you like it?
I haven't smoked it yet.
And it's 5 different cigars.
There weren't that many left. I was like, I got to get one now. So I haven't had time, but
it's pretty cool to see. There's a couple that I love and a couple that I don't really like, but that's why I like that whole project, because it's 5 different blenders doing whatever they wanted to, and that means that you're going to get stuff that in one 5-pack of the same brand that you like and you don't like, and that's kind of cool to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, go to right now.
I don't really do that. I guess my go-to cigar forever, because my favorite one was the Tabernacle. Currently in my number one spot is that Rare Leaf Reserve Corojo from Aganorsa. Not a go-to, though. I don't really have, because I smoke all over the map, because I want to have different experiences and I want to try as many different things as I possibly can. So I don't really have a go-to, but I do have cigars that I return to frequently.
The 2 I've been ripping the most right now, La Imperiosa Corona Gorda from Crown Heads. Awesome cigar. Made it my father. And then the Domain Neutron or Negentropy, depending on what I'm feeling. But one of those 2, like those. But then we've been like sampling a lot of new brands, because we finally have the space that we've been clearing in the humidor to bring new brands in.
Yeah.
So we've just been trying like all these kind of smaller, obscure brands. So we've been smoking a lot of Castagli recently, PG. I don't know. It's been kind of fun. Like, I'm smoking stuff now that I haven't historically smoked consistently ever.
I'm smoking stuff that I have never even had in my hands before, right?
Yeah.
Some of the Castagli line, Avowed. Right?
Oh, yeah. We just ordered those yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Avowed. Shout out to Avowed, the guys at Small
whichever
Batch.
one the red wrapper was, I think was my favorite.
The limited.
One.
Yep.
That's a great cigar. But yeah, there's just all kinds of good cigars, and why pigeonhole yourself in, right? You can have, so I guess, go-tos. I have many go-tos. Reserva Privada. I've said, my morning cigar, the Corojo, Aganorsa Rare Leaf, pretty much anything broadleaf after a couple cigars or later in the day for me.
Yep.
So Sarto, Domain, Entropy.
Yep.
Always the Tabernacle is going to be in
Yep.
there 100% with me.
What about you?
I really like I think a lot of people who are like, cigars are fine. Like, they just haven't had a good cigar yet. And the first time you get a cigar that you really like, you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Right. And so the first one for me was the One Night Stand from Lost and Found. Yeah. Like, I love that cigar.
The black with the red.
Yeah. And that was like the first cigar where I was like, oh, like, this flavor is really different. I really like it.
Yeah.
And so that's always just like been, I've got history with that one. So I always
You've got history with the One Night Stand.
Yeah. And then I also like the Blind Man's Bluff was another, I think, Lost and Found that I liked a lot. The Tabernacle, actually, you guys turned me on to that, and I have picked that up at a few shops in LA.
Sorry about that. You paid like 7 times as much for that cigar.
I'm used to it. I'm paying 7 times as much for everything.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I'm like, look, California treats you like shit, has terrible politics, taxes you like crazy, and you still don't leave because it's my friend did a lot of research, and he's like, this is the only Mediterranean climate in the United States.
Yeah.
So you pay for it.
And you pay for it. Well, Where can people find Valet?
Valetsmoking.co.
Valetsmoking.co.
Yeah. And we actually don't do any fulfillment through the website right now. So we just push you to Amazon if you go to the website. But we got to clean up the website. We're going to be at PCA this year.
Super sick.
Booth 4950. If anybody listening is going to be at PCA, and we've got a booth. So I don't know how much we talked about it here, but basically we built out our own manufacturing, which I think is unique.
Yeah.
I don't know that Boveda even does their own manufacturing. I know they at least have some co-packers. Integra Boost, which I think is more in the cannabis space, but somewhat in cigars. They may do some manufacturing through their like parent company, but I have built out all of our manufacturing. So we've designed it in a way that our switching cost is very low. So we're doing custom like co-branded packs.
It's my favorite perk of Valet.
We're doing co-branded packs with, retailers, with cigar manufacturers. The whole idea is, the humidity control should be an extension of your brand, right? Like we don't need you to, push Valet in a box of, your cigars, right? It should be your brand. And so we've built everything out for that. So at the booth, we have our brand, but then we also have like our custom, co-branded packs that we're offering. And so that should be fun. That's like, I would think of it as kind of our official launch, because we've been selling on Amazon. Yeah. But like you've been asking me like every few weeks, you're like, hey, can I get the product yet? And I'm like, no. And I was like, okay, I got you. Like in April, we'll get you the product. I've basically just decided that April's going to be the launch, right? We're going to PCA. Like in the meantime, I'm like, shit, I got to scale up manufacturing, because now we're going to have like, a lot more business coming in. And, but yeah, that's, we're building this whole thing. Like we're owning all the manufacturing. I'm having a ton of fun with it. I'm over here like planning like, computer vision systems to like stop the pack machine if there's ever like a defect, and like a little like, Arduino temperature control. Like just, I draw up CAD stuff and then I send it to this guy in Cincinnati. He works at in the machine shop at like Cincinnati State. And he's just my brother's friend. And like every time I need something for the factory, I'm just like, I draw up a little CAD thing and I send it to him. I'm like, can you make this? And he's usually like, oh yeah, I got some scrap. I'll whip it up for you. And so we're just like, we're building it out. I think we've got it pretty dialed at this point. So we just have to scale it up to meet demand. But that's a core focus for us, is really the co-branded packs. So, we want our brand, like for the larger packs, the 60 grams on Amazon, et cetera. But like for anybody who's got their own brand, whether you're a retailer or, making cigars, we'll do like co-branded packs for you. So
yeah, come April or May, probably May is more of a guarantee. Our shipments for the Creekside Cigar Club, they'll be coming in with we've got Creekside Valet packs, and I am pumped to put those in.
Yeah, we've got your packs ordered, the packaging ordered, and when it shows up, I
can't wait to see them.
We have we're gonna try and produce them before PCA and show up with a couple thousand Creekside packs, and some of our other we've got a few other brands that we're working with that we'll have there with us, and some other surprises. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I think that you tell me, this industry is pretty fun to be a part of, right?
It's the best.
I've just been telling everybody, I'm like, I'm not ever going to sell this company, right? Like you build a software company and the whole goal is to sell it.
Exit, yeah.
Right. And I'm like, the whole goal of this is to never exit, right? Yeah. Like the whole goal of this is just to build a company that I want to be a part of forever.
For sure.
So
yeah, that's really cool to hear you say. And yeah, that's some of my favorite parts about working in cigars is there's a lot of handshake deals, and it's all about relationships. And like, I don't know, like I know of so many people that I trust in cigars. And we've done a lot of business and work together, where there hasn't been a contract, there hasn't been all this stuff, but like it's one of these last remaining. This is the cool part of the pageantry of cigars. It's like your word carries all of the weight in cigars, and as soon as it doesn't, you don't carry much weight anymore. And that's kind of how things used to operate, right? And so it's really cool to be a part of that, and that's also what makes it fun of doing business with so many people, because you're working with the founders of these companies, or the generations that have come after the founders, or it's people that are like, I don't know, kicking doors down, young guys living in LA or in Cincinnati that are like, I got no ties to tobacco or to cigars, which is me too, and Noah. Like no business being in the business.
People are
we
friendly
love it,
though,
and we're going to do it.
Yeah,
so
everyone's been
I think
great.
It's awesome.
Yeah, everyone's been great. I mean, the reaction I always get is, Boveda's fantastic. I love those guys. I'm not interested. And then I send them a picture and then they say, "Hey, actually, I changed my mind."
And they are great.
Or yeah,
I have
or
no
if I
beef with
mention, or if I mention that we do the co-branded packs, like that's another big one, you know, because
Yep.
like we like the whole front of the pack, right? You don't have to have our branding on there at all. Like we just little mention on the back, like it was made by us, and that's it. So when I tell people that, like that's the other thing that really gets them. But everybody's been super friendly. I think that the world is kind of coming back to, or like at least thirsting for this, like this human elements, right?
Connection.
Like people want the handshake deals and the honor and like the moral code, and you know, you get that in cigars. I think in the community, like even just at a lounge, it's right. Like I've you know, been parts of like different entrepreneurship groups or these things, and I'm like, you know, there's a lot of really boring entrepreneurs, there's a lot of really shitty capitalists, but like so I'm really interested in like how you, like what cross section of society you can sort of like how you can find people that you get along with, right? How do you find people that you align with? And I think that the cigar industry is great because people are like honor, morals, like, you know, all these things, integrity, and there's few other, you know, like communities or I call it like cross sections of society where it's like regardless of where somebody is, you know, what they do, they have like this kind of baseline value system that you align with. And so that's one of the things that I really have enjoyed, you know, so far. And that was, you know, I had a hunch that it was going to be like that, but it's lived up to my expectations. So
I love it. Build it, grow it, hold it.
That's the plan.
ValetSmoking.co. Smoking good company. Anything else?
No, I would just say that, like, we talked about this a lot, and I told you I was going to ask you a question before we got here, right? And then I was like, all right, we'll just save it for when we sit down together, and I didn't want to, you know, talk too much. And then Dave rolled in, and we got straight to it. But to the end consumer, for the most part, the branding's not going to matter, right? The look of what that pack isn't going to matter. If it sits on our shelf.
But go ahead.
Well, I mean, if it sits on our shelf, it's good that it can have our brand on it coming from our lounge, right? But the guy buying it, why should he buy it instead of Boveda? Why Valet instead of what we know and love and are used to? And not just that, it works, right? Yeah. We know that works. That's a fact. So if you had just the quick pitch, you know, why should we buy this instead of that?
I've had a lot of failed companies where I thought that something was a good idea, and then because I thought the industry wanted it, and then I put it out and it turned out it wasn't, you know, that great of an idea. And Valet is like one of the first things where I wanted it. So I didn't really care. You know, my new idea of a good product is like, if I'm the only customer, do I still want it? You know, and I'm like, yes. And so I'm like, okay, if I put that out, I'm sure there's other people like me. So I hear what you're saying. That's not the response that we've gotten. Everybody says that until you show them two products side by side. One looks better, one looks worse, and they're, you know, pretty much the same price. People are going to pick the better looking pack in many cases. And so I think, you know, that's where the co-branding and all these other things will work. And we have a lot of other ideas. I mean, hopefully Boveda's not watching, but we're going to do like, you know, event partnerships, and we own the manufacturing anyway. So we're super flexible, right? In what we can do. But I have ideas where it's like, imagine you're going to, you know, Waste Management 2025 golf tournament in Arizona, right? Like we can make Waste Management like special artwork, like it's like proof of attendance, right? Like you were at this event, you can get that. And assuming that Waste Management 2025 wants to, you know, let us do that. Yeah. But, you know, we'll partner with events, create, you know, limited runs of packs with special artwork, and then it's going to say Valet on the back. So if you have these, you know, if you have these experiences, and then you have this like reminder that, oh, like Valet was a part of that experience, and I don't even want to throw this pack away because it's like proof of attendance even years later, right? That I was at F1 or I was at Waste Management or I was at this event or that event. Then I think that naturally when people get to the store and they see Boveda next to Valet, like I think they'll pick Valet.
Yeah, I kind of fall on that side of it actually, of like the design, the visual, the way that you can create unique things is enough of a differentiator, in my opinion, because I mean, truthfully, that was the whole start of all of this. With the conversation we had, I was like, if it's as good as Boveda, or better, cool. But if it needs to, they are the bar, they are the baseline for quality standard, and you're telling me I can do all of these other things with it, and like that's good for me.
Well, also, how do you define better? Because to me, better is easier to understand, easier to use. And so if your packaging makes more sense to people, then it's a better product, even if its performance is the exact same. So
From the standpoint of managing a cigar shop and being a part of this, I love all of those things. So I just want to be clear, I'm not trying to dog on your product.
You
Valet.
hate it.
And as I said, I have started using it, right, in my main Tupperdore, right? And so far it's worked. I mean, I didn't realize it was all these different things into it. I like the education being on the front of it, right? And that's a big draw, and like kind of what you're talking about with that proof of attendance. That sort of a concept reminds me a lot of my record collection, or something that you have as a tangible reminder, or a shirt that you get right from a merch booth at a concert that you were at. Like it's a touch point and a tangible piece of something you had history with, and I think that's a cool aspect of.
Yeah, it takes you somewhere when you see it, which is kind of cool. Like opening up your box and
which is,
there's that one, and there's this place that I went, and this lounge that I visited that had this one. It becomes like the Matchbox.
Yeah. And we are not like, Valet is the cigar brand. We're not going to be like a two-way humidity control brand. You know, we'll do cannabis because like it's a good opportunity, but it's going to be a different brand. Like I don't want it diluting the cigar brand because, to be honest, I don't care about it.
Yeah.
And so we have a different brand for that. But like this is for cigars, premium cigars. And so we have other products as well. Like we're not just going to do humidity control. We're going to do mouthwash. We're going to do odor, removal. Like if you've ever been to a nice restaurant or a club where they have like the guy in the bathroom and he's like, can I get you like squirt of cologne or like a mint, a piece of gum,
Valet.
Here's the Valet, right?
Fits with the brand. I like
that explains the name. Then,
yeah.
I went on the lavender mints. Did you ever order those?
I did, and they're good. Yeah, they're really good. And so to come up with the name, I just took like a 2-hour walk around LA, and I was like, by the time I get home, I'm gonna have a name.
You took a 2-hour walk around LA and you saw more Valet people than people, and you were like, I guess that's
I saw
name.
it on a sign like 5 times, and I was like, that's a good name. Yeah. So that's how we came up with it. But yeah,
that's awesome. Well, Abe, thanks for coming and hanging, sharing about Valet cigars. Noah, always a pleasure.
Likewise.
ValetSmoking.co.
booth 4950 at PCA 2025.
You heard it here first.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This is like our launch.
This is the launch. Like hard launch. They're live, people. Hey, until next time, thanks you all for hanging out. Leave a comment, as you always do. We always love reading them. Roast this guy. Roast me. Tell him how great he is. Tell us how great we are, or don't. We get a mix of everything. That's what keeps us humble.
Shade is interaction too, and that helps no matter what. So throw shade, give us compliments, whatever you want to do.
Appreciate all you guys. Until next time, smoking good company. Peace.